Sup, y'all? I am your host, Taylor Onion, and this is Hang Time. We are back this week with the head coach of the Tampa Bay Sun FC, Denise-Schilte Brown. Denise, let's get some hang time. Welcome.
Thanks, Taylor. It's great to be in touch again and great to see your face and just excited to hang with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mentioned we know each other from our days at South Florida at USF. You spent 17 years there as the head coach of the Bulls women's soccer program, 7 NCAA tournament appearances, 4 conference tournament championships, multiple All-Americans, just doing great things in those 17 years while you were there.
Yeah, it was an amazing place to develop as a coach and have like rich relationships there that I'll always value. And it was truly a blessing. I'll always think, very fondly of my time at USF, and I'm just grateful that I had that opportunity.
Yeah. Well, what made you want to make the jump from college into the Tampa Bay Sun head coach role that you're in now?
I just think you develop as a coach. You put so much time and effort into it. And in college athletics, there's a lot of other moving pieces that factor into that job, and I really loved those moving pieces for years. I liked the recruiting, I liked the player management, the academic advising, like helping, just keeping your girls on track and honestly like pouring into the future selves or the future version of themselves. That was like pretty awesome for me. But I really loved the idea of it being all about football, just the preparation and the time being all about the tactics, preparation, and picking elite players and being able to manage, those personalities too. I wanted to challenge myself and see, how I could fare in that environment.
What are some of the biggest differences aside from obviously tracking academics has got to be one of the biggest differences from college to pro, but what are some of the other big changes that you've seen between those two spaces?
I think that their desire to learn, and to like grow as players is like pretty deep in the pros. They didn't just, they're not undecided whether soccer is their thing for long term. They're like, this is my job. So
Right.
they're very vested in the details. So it's a lot of learning and a lot of absorbing, which is great that you don't always get at the college level. They're very passionate about their playing time. They're very passionate about what they do. So it's another level that you get here in the pros that you don't get there. But I think I was more surprised about the similarities than I was about the differences.
Mm,
Um, there's still women that want and grow from validation. Um, they still want the same knowledge base that you're teaching in in college, but they wanna understand it more, like the whys. So you're kind of teaching the same information, but at a deeper level and them wanting to grasp it. So that's pretty cool, but there's still a lot of similarities. There's still the same awesome women that you knew that you were coaching in college. They're just, yeah, an older version of themselves. They still, thrive on, you know, coaches inspiring them to play. You want them to kind of be their own cheerleaders at this point, and I think most of them are, but, you're still out here every day fighting for a spot and, striving to be the best version of ourselves, and I guess it's the same at every level, wherever you are, whoever you're performing for, like, if you can get that validation, it's gonna help a lot.
absolutely. So the Sun are one of the newest. I think there's actually been a couple more franchises added since the Sun came into the league. But when you guys were there, it first was a part of the USL, the women's league there. Now it's the Gamebridge Super League. Talk a little bit about what it's been like to become the head coach of a brand new franchise of a women's professional league.
Yeah, it's just, um, again, it was such a blessing. This was something that I prayed for, by the way. I was like, if I'm meant to go play pro, I want the door to open and I want it to make sense, right? So I'm definitely a woman of faith, and there was a lot of doors that didn't open for me that it didn't always make sense.
Mm,
Why not me? Or I felt like I was qualified, or it seemed like the right timing, and having faith in those moments were challenging, but I definitely like had it. And then I understood that I was in a great place at USF. But when this job opened up, there was like no thought process as to whether I should take it or not. I was like, this is where God wants me to be. This door opened up. I mean, who gets to be a professional coach in the city they're already living in, right?
right.
Where their husband can still be the college coach there. So, this was definitely meant to be. So I just didn't hesitate, and and it was such a great experience, or it has been such a great experience. You know, I brought a friend with me who was on my staff at USF, and the 2 of us got to just, pick the team, you know, select from scratch. If anything, though, it added this, like, little bit of pressure because we got in early, and Eric and I thought we did quite a bang up job of picking the best players that we could for this league, and felt like we were gonna win the inaugural season because, you know, we did this, and we did it early, and we did it together. So it was a little stressful when, we had to go through the growing pains of figuring out the best way to put this team together and the best way to succeed, and finding our footing in terms of getting those consistent wins. So soccer is cruel that way sometimes.
Yeah. Let's talk about the early days. I mean, you get named head coach and then presumably you hit the ground running. You just start immediately recruiting players to the team. How does that stuff work? What did the early days look like?
Yeah, I wish somebody gave us a roadmap because nobody did. You know, we just literally started putting names on a board of everybody that we liked and wasn't signed in contracts, and we started trying to develop relationships with agents, and then we just got on our like scouting system, and we would go to every league and pick players we like, and then we would look them up on Instagram, see if they had an agent, contact the agent, and try to get in touch with the player. But it was very rudimentary, and it wasn't always pretty at times. But we were just, you know, grinding away and getting it done the best way that we could.
Yeah, I think some of that has to be exciting, right? Because there is no roadmap, there's no rules. You can kind of do things how you want. But on the flip side of it, not having a roadmap, not coming into like, when you got to USF, there were already some cultures established within the
Yeah.
program, within the athletic department that you kind of find your space in. How did you approach leadership in an environment that had no established culture, tradition, anything to lean on?
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, I'm one of the oldest ones in the building, so I was, you know, tasked at times to, um, you know, weigh in on what that looked like and what the culture would be like, and help lead the sporting side of the building. I don't know. I think I'm pretty much built to do that. I don't know. I've always been a head coach. I've not been an assistant coach in my career, so it was pretty natural for me to right away start trying to build culture and do it my way. I feel really blessed that the people I worked with enjoyed it and wanted to be a part of it and supported me and continue to support me. So it's been a really fun journey because I've been supported. I haven't really gotten, you know, that person that's like, no, let's do it this way, right? They've
Right.
just been like, okay, Denise, that sounds good. Let's go. And I really love culture. I love pouring into the environment. I mean, we always pray over all our spaces and really believe in trying to inspire our players and have them be a part of building that culture. So there's a lot that goes into it, from finding out their personalities, you know, doing a dive into what makes each person tick on the team, and then having them decide what parts of culture they want to be the main pillars for our team, right?
Mm,
And then they pick those, and then they got to define them, and then how they implement them. And there was a lot of steps to it, and there is every season. But I think the more you pour into it, the more you pour into culture, you know, the better foundation you have when things go wrong, right? It doesn't. It seems like a little bit like maybe, I don't know, needless when you're doing it because you have a bunch of great players and they're all good people and everybody's happy. So, like, why are we putting this foundation in place? Why are we building culture? Why are we doing personality tests? Why are we, you know, doing cooking classes together? Like, why are we doing these things? Everything is great, but you do them now because things aren't going to be great. They aren't always going to be great, right? And so you have to have them see that you have a heart for them and that you care about them, and have a heart for each other of what, you know, what they're like as people, so that when things don't go well in the field, they have grace for one another. And that, I think that's gonna really pay off in the end.
yeah, I think the best analogy I was thinking as you were saying that, like, things aren't always when things are good, that's when you don't feel like you need to prepare, and then things are terrible. The best analogy I can think of for that is putting down sandbags ahead of a hurricane and storm surge things, right? Like,
Yes. Yeah.
you put that out when the weather is still nice, you board things up when things look great, and then you're prepared, obviously, when the storm rolls through,
Oh,
so
yeah, for sure, for
yeah.
sure, good analogy.
For sure. So in the franchise in your first year, you won the USL championship. Did you know, I mean, you mentioned kind of at the beginning, like, hey, we thought we started getting into a space where we thought we could really win this. But at what point did you know for sure, like, all right, we're gonna make a real run for this thing?
I mean, we always felt like we were going to win this because we had a belief in our players, and we were looking at the landscape, and individually we just had the talent to win. We had all the pieces to win. It was a matter of it like clicking. You know what I mean? Like you
Sure.
have, even though you're really talented, we still have to do all of this and do it together. We have to do all of this and we have to do it together. Um, we always talk about it being rowing in the right direction. I mean, have you ever gone canoeing with a significant other? It's the worst, like, you're gonna divorce each other, right? Because, the person on the back's paddle is stronger than the person in the front, and can you time, like, how well you paddle together? And I never forget, like, going canoeing with my husband because I just stopped rowing, and he was like, "Are you not gonna row?" I'm like, "Well, no, because then, it's not going straight." So, just paddling all in the same direction and getting all of us to be able to do it is challenging, especially with doing it the right way. So I think once the midway season hit and we were able to do an analysis of what were the things that were really pulling us in the wrong directions, which paddles were on the wrong side of the boat, and we could get them all in, all the oars in, and be pulling at the same time and really focused on the things that were going to change kind of the hiccups in the first half of the season. It started to flow, and we had one significant change about 4 games into the second half of the season. And as soon as we made that change, it was like, yeah, there it is. So then, and it just kind of took off.
Winning a championship in season 1, how has that helped you to prepare for season 2? Are you thinking about the same things? There's new stuff, it's a new team, presumably you got some new players, this year. How has that kind of laid a foundation to help you plan for year 2?
Yeah, it's just a lot faster, right? Everything is, there's, like you said, there's a foundation there. It's not anybody, most of them, it's not their first rodeo, and a lot of them are just um picking up everything faster. There's a speed of trust between you and the returning players. They trust you now. So they're not second guessing what you're doing. You're not second guessing what they're doing. So you don't have to be careful with your words. You don't have to be, as slow with your thought processes. And then they're actually just these amazing women. So they're helping the players that are new and catching everybody up quickly. So it's just, yeah, it's kind of like a stress reliever for us because we're not having to do as much.
As you think about, we talked a little bit about this offline yesterday, but I'm interested to hear some perspectives from you as a woman leading in this space in a new franchise in a growing sports league. Yes, it's a women's sports league, but we know sports are still a male dominated field. Soccer, I'm sure, is still a male dominated field. So I'm curious to know just any of the perspectives that you've had making the move from the college ranks to the pro ranks as a woman, now leading a new franchise in a relatively, I mean, the league is not new, but the rebrand is new. I guess, share some thoughts on that space.
I mean, I'm pretty passionate about the space, so I don't want to say too much about it. But I feel like one of the, one of the most important things for me is to understand that without the support of the people, the public, the primarily women themselves, then you don't survive, right? Like male sports, decades and decades ago, they didn't survive without people coming to their game, without companies saying, "Hey, I want to sponsor you." Just everybody rallying to support them to create that awareness that they were there, and then spreading the joy of what it's like to come to a game and enjoy the atmosphere. And now a lot of people have a lot of things to pick from. I mean, Taylor Swift got engaged. Do you like go see a Taylor Swift concert, and or go to a Chiefs game, or are you going to go to a Tampa Bay Sun game? I mean, there's so many options out there for people to do, and how do you get them to buy in to the fact that it's not just another event in Tampa Bay. We're not just another pro sports team in Tampa Bay. We are a new sports team in Tampa Bay. We are the only women's professional team in Tampa Bay. So how do you help that thrive? Right? Like we've survived year one and we did a great job. We won a championship. There was fireworks, there was a parade, there's boats, there's trophies, there's everything for a fan to like enjoy, and it's a good product on the field. But we need people to understand that in order for it to continue to thrive, they have to support it. So it's kind of like a calling to all females. Especially if you have a business and you're already supporting a sports organization. Well, like if you want your daughters or future women to be able to play professional sports, it's a time to invest into that future, and right now we're that future. We're the only future that's projected there for everybody. So I hope that people do that. The Suncoast Credit Union just invested in us, and they're the new name of our field. So it's companies like that in the area just recognizing the impact that it has on women and on young women, and the impact that it has on the future of professional female sports. I hope more people can step up to the plate and do that because it's going to be important.
I was just trying to find, there's a study that just came out, new research from Parity, which is a company I had somebody
Okay.
on earlier in the year, but they focus on they're trying to fill the gap, right? Like the gender, the pay equity gap, all these things. For women's soccer specifically, and they're
Yeah.
talking about 78% trust women athletes, and the women's soccer fans, like, they are buying into these spaces where the players have collabs with different companies. They're more likely to, book a flight on a travel company that they've seen on, a pro women's soccer player, whatever it is. It's so interesting to
Wow, that's interesting.
yeah, I mean, the research and some of the percentages that they've come out with, I mean, it's anything from health and beauty to apparel to food, beverage, whatever. If they've seen it, and whether it's NWSL or the Gainbridge Super League or whoever, they've seen these women's soccer players promoting these brands, they're more likely to buy into that. So the
Oh,
the argument that, I think for a long, long time, people have seen women's sports as a charity. We know that it's
yeah,
not that. Like, there is a very clear return on investment, and there's research to back that up right
yeah.
now. And so it's just to not invest in women's soccer is just bad business, and it's just, it's interesting.
Yeah, it's
But
really interesting. Oh, I love that, and it resonates with me. I think that a lot of the female athletes, they have a foundation in education. Most of them have not like left education early. They've followed through. They're most of them have their degree, if not their masters at this point. They Some of them have already had full careers before they had come back because professional soccer existed. So I think that they're not jumping into products with their eyes closed, or just for a dollar, or just because an agent told them to do it. They have probably some meaningful relationships with these different companies and products, and they're putting it out there because they're good for other women or good for the public. And I believe that my players wouldn't endorse something that they didn't believe in. So I think it makes sense that the public is like, oh, this must be good because a professional female athlete endorsed it, and right now they have that credibility, so that's great.
yeah, the credibility, of course, is huge. It gives you more exposures. Certainly the boat parades. We love a Tampa Bay boat parade, championship parade.
Yes.
But yeah, the authenticity piece I think is so huge, and
Yeah.
we're seeing so much of that right now, especially in the space of women's soccer. What do you hope with some of this growth that we're seeing right now, specifically in women's soccer, but also in other women's pro leagues? What do you hope it translates to for the next generation of female athletes?
I hope that there's like lines out the door to come see our games, that everybody wants to come there, that everybody realizes they got to bring their daughter to the game, that these are incredible role models for their daughters. And this is the right place to find them. And then when they put on their shoes in the morning and they go get their water bottle ready and they're putting on their backpack to go to their club practice, that they're thinking about a Tampa Bay Sun player and they're dreaming about putting on that jersey someday. And it feels a lot different from the dream that I had to wake up to, which was a hope that someday there would be a pro league. And I had to think about, a men's soccer player and who my favorite male soccer player was. And as I was putting on my cleats, I really couldn't envision myself what that looked like to be a pro because it didn't exist. So I just prayed that that dream continues, and that yeah, the little girl is just, they're like 5, 6 years old and they already want to be a pro women's soccer player for Tampa Bay. Like that would be just awesome. And I think that's happening.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Okay, any final advice, that you have for either women who are aspiring to lead in sports or, whether it's in soccer, I guess, or outside of that?
I would just say, go into the spaces that you are uncomfortable in. Don't wait for another female to step up and lead. Just jump in. Know that you're going to be different. Know that there's advantages to being a female, that you're going to think differently, that you're going to approach things differently, and that the balance between men and women working together is a great balance, and you bring something tremendous to the table. So don't don't hesitate. Just jump in.
All right, if you could get some hang time with any woman in sports, who would it be and why?
Oh, wow. That's a great question. Um, I mean, probably like Jill Ellis and Emma Hayes and just some of the great female coaches that are in the game now or were in the game. And, if we could go to a quiet place to have a cup of tea and share stories and just understand some of the lessons that they already learned in being a female in an exceptional environment. That would be awesome for me. I would love to hear their stories and learn and grow from them in that way. And Jill Ellis is awesome. And so is Emma Hayes. They're both people that I can use as a resource, but I haven't been able to have a cup of tea.
Yeah, I like it. Cup of tea is fitting.
Cup of tea would be just great.
Jill Ellis actually got her start, I believe, at the University of Illinois before she went, on to the
Yeah,
next thing, so she was the
yeah.
first coach of the program there, so you guys have that in common being, the first head coaches of
I love
programs.
it. I love it.
Alright, where can listeners get involved? Where can they support either you or the Tampa Bay Sun? What's the best way?
I think if they just go to our website, everything is on there. All our handles are on there. All our tickets are on there. So just go to Tampa Bay Sun FC website. You can learn about the players. You can get all the schedules and, follow us on Instagram and definitely follow you because you're, grooming this great path for female leaders and inspiring the next generation to be strong and courageous females. So hopefully they follow you too.
I hope so. I appreciate it. Well, Denise, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to catch up and talk about all the great things you're doing in Tampa Bay.
Absolutely. Stay in touch, okay?
All right, listeners, we will see you back in a couple of weeks. And until then, you can follow along at HangTimeP0D on Instagram, TikTok, and X. We will see you next time.